Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jeff Hargrove. I work at Lincoln University on the community team for this grant under the lead of Charlie Nylon, and I'm going to give you guys a brief overview of the work we're doing in respect to this grant at Lincoln University. And right now,
just more people.
Oh, just more people. Okay. Yeah. So this the first slide here on the page is kind of overview of everything we have down on South Campus at Lincoln University. The top picture, we work with many different groups in respect to the community resiliency aspect. Top left picture is our Boys and Girls Club Garden that we have at Lincoln University, where we use that as an educational kind of jump-off site to be able to reach those children that are associated in that group. We have a garden where we grow traditional horticulture crops. We also have native edibles. We have a chicken coop with solar power on it, and also 2 beehives that we get honey production out of. The one next to that in the top center is 3 berms out in front of the old teaching greenhouse that we use for sweet potato and blue potato production. Picture on the side of that is the compost facility behind Dickinson Greenhouse, where I work with Dr. Wei-Hing Johnson. We compost food waste from the cafeteria, and it's also a place where I collect all the leaves and basically the yard trash from around campus, and I compost that and use that to supplement our production sites on the university there. The middle picture on the left is the old teaching greenhouse that we use to supplement the participants in our program so they can use the produce that is grown in that greenhouse for food preservation to enhance their resiliency. Middle picture is a picture of one of the field trips we're used, where the kids from one of the local schools is identifying different aquatic biology in an old quarry that's on Lincoln campus. Center picture on the right is the community garden that was built on Lincoln University campus that anywhere between 30 to 40 participants a year have individual raised beds where they raise food and grow any crops that they want. Left is the classroom for the old teaching greenhouse, where we have classes that are pertinent to this grant opportunity. And in the middle picture is just some classes from a field trip where we have Dallas Moss, who is a community member that volunteers to take care of our beehive, is teaching about honeybees and different pollinators. And the one on the bottom right is a community garden or food production site that we have started in Lilburn, Missouri, down in the Bootheel. So this is the logic model that we have developed that I kind of work off of in respect to this grant. So our main activities that we have going are food production sites and community gardens. These sites both use, your annual traditional crops, tomatoes and peppers. We also use native edibles, your perennials, your persimmons, your elderberries, and different such sites as that. And to this date, we have 7 different sites started. 5 of them are up and going, and 2 of them are currently being built right now. Another aspect of that is we use these sites as jumping off points for our educational seminars and workshops. As I kind of tell everybody, I've watched The Field of Dreams, and I always go by the old montage, if you build it, they will come. So we kind of use this as a point to draw in community members to just kind of spark their interest in what we're doing. And then we use that as an outreach effort to get our external engagement numbers up and just to be able to reach additional people. And in addition to that, we also, in addition to our workshops and classes, we'll have summer camps and field trips come in from various schools. We partnered with Jefferson City Parks and Rec, Camp Waka Waka, and Camp Greenberry, where they will bring kids in about 3 to 5 weeks throughout the summer, and they'll base their whole week field trips on a part of what's going on at Lincoln University. So they'll have one whole week that's dedicated to resiliency training and everything that's associated with that. And the fourth part is student internships, which we use to engage the students at Lincoln University and also create the opportunities for them to get involved in STEM education and kind of expose them to different aspects of agriculture and community resiliency. And the ways we gauge that are short-term outcomes. You guys can look on there. Increased knowledge and awareness of sustainability. So with our educational seminars and workshops, we'll have pre and post tests so that we're able to gauge the knowledge, their foundational knowledge base before the class, and then they're after the class. We also use that on a daily thing, and we've also have a group of people that we're kind of surveying over a multi-year period to see if these classes result in increased resiliency on a long-term time frame. And of course, increased STEM exposure, increase to the different areas of science, and also increased exposure to experiential learning. Not only do we learn a lot, but me and the students that work under me, we build all the infrastructure that's associated with all these gardens. So it's a lot of work in the summer, but it pays off because we're able to use these places to educate the different community. And we're hoping our long-term outcomes result in enhanced community wellness, increased food security, enhanced self-sufficiency, and enhanced local partnerships, and enhanced STEM education and career trajectory, which enhances the capacity of local communities to be more resilient. So the collaborators mainly up to this point so far have been the BCDC, which is the Bootheel Community Development Corporation. And to work down there, I don't live down there, so it's hard for me to get down there a lot. So what I do is I use this Community Development Corporation as an outreach arm for the kind of the specifics of our grant that we want to incorporate. And to go off down here, I kind of use Brian Dabson's Resiliency Index to kind of cover the different areas. So I write grants to NGOs to kind of keep them up and running and kind of help them outreach to the community down there, since I'm not able to be down there a lot. And then Cole County Health Department, I work with them in aspect of starting a community garden at the community health department to do outreach there. I work with Dr. Wayne Johnson, Dr. Jim Westall at the university. They help teach different classes and workshops during the summer, and also field trips. And also Jefferson City Parks and Rec, Mike Bollinger and Lynn Kuhn. I work with them to facilitate all the agendas for the different field trips that come through every year, so we can kind of outreach to more children through there. And then the Boys and Girls Club and Pringer Center, which the students work with, where everyone knows what the Boys and Girls Club is, a place for kids to go to do learning. And the Pringer Center is it's a family center that serves a variety of needs in Jefferson City. It's a licensed residential care center, and it provides residential services for up to 14 people at a time. And it's an emergency care shelter for children who have been involved in physical injury, sexual abuse, or emotional abuse. And they get about 400 children through a year with an average stay of 6 people. So being able to facilitate a relationship with this organization, it allows us to outreach to a lot of vulnerable children and teach them not only about how to grow food, but about different parts of the environment and how different parts of the environment impact other things. Kind of takes their mind off what they're going through and really opens up opportunities for them to engage in things that they haven't been able to engage in before. So this, each year we start with our old teaching greenhouse. We start 2015, we started about 2,100 plants. 2016, this year, we started about 2,300 plants. We start these plants in March, and we use these plants to populate the different community gardens that we have going as part of this program. All these plants that we start are heirlooms, so we can teach the people. We try to keep the cost down, mitigate the overheads of each cost, so after this grant is done and through, they'll be able to keep these gardens going. So we use heirlooms because I teach them how to save the seeds so that they can use each of the seeds that they saved from the year before to start their garden the next year. So all these are the annuals that we use in each of the gardens, and then we also use direct seed methods, which like lettuce, spinach, garlic, onions, beets, and carrots. We direct seed all that in the spring and the fall, and then we also have our perennials, our native plants, and also fruit trees that we establish at each of the food production sites also. So Wilburn, working in respect to the Bootheel Community Development Corporation, according to Brian Dabson's resilience indicators, the Bootheel is in need of dire help. It's red on most of the resilience indexes, so they need help in about every aspect that they can. So the project team is educated. What we do for environmental resilience is kind of tell them, you know, what are they going to face or what have they faced. And a lot of them, they don't need to be told. They experience a lot of flooding, some drought, and of course they sit on the New Madrid fault line, so the seismic hazards that are associated with that. And we use that as a jumping off point to teach them about emergency preparedness and the different aspects that are associated with that. And economic resilience, we work with the BCDC and Wilburn and different towns down there. We try to, what we're trying to do right now is work with them. Lincoln University, a couple other people that have worked there have set up a Missouri Agriculture Products Cooperative, and they've recently been awarded a grant for refrigerated trucks. So we've been working with the BCDC and other people down there to get people that are unemployed currently to turn their empty lots in these little towns down there into food production sites to eventually sell to the cooperative and hopefully make some money and help their economic resilience in those towns where there's not a lot of opportunity for jobs. And the way we do that is the funding for the 501c3s down there is very limited. So for the past 3 years, I've secured 3 grants for them, the latest being the biggest one, which is an Alzheimer's Foundation grant, which brings in medical care to these communities and just the aspect of, you know, using these 501c3s to reach out to these communities because they can help serve the people of their community better than I can because they've lived there, they know the people, they know what they need. So I provide them the resources and the general framework of what we're trying to do, and they help me implement the things that we need to do down there. So we've secured a lot of funding from private organizations up to this date. We're currently going for some federal funding. I had to work with them to get a SAMS.gov number and a DUNS number so they are eligible for federal funding. So we just got approved for that for this 501c3, so we'll be able to be competitively try to get some other grants from the USDA and NEFA and other agencies. Infrastructure resilience, a lot of these towns down there, they don't have access to fresh food. So the bottom, as you can see in social resilience, that little picture down there is one of the community members we worked with. We just got a small plot going on his land. That's his house in the background behind there. And then on the right is an empty vacant lot in the town of Wilburn that we got one of our food production sites set up in. The part that's being tilled is the food production area for the tomatoes and all the annuals, peppers, different stuff, collards. Then to the back of that, we have elderberries, blackberries, persimmons planted, and then we've also planted oranges and apple trees also to help facilitate food production. And they've used a lot of that produce that they grew this year to help feed kids during the summer when they were out of school. So we funneled a lot of that produce through a church there that ran a summer kind of summer camp for the kids, and they were able to feed the kids fresh produce from that garden this summer. Food production site, so here's pictures of Wilburn, Bootheel Garden. That's when we first broke ground last year up in the top left corner. And then as you can see, last year we just started with 4 rows. We got about 160, 200 plants in. And then this last summer, as you guys saw in the last picture, we've expanded and put perennials in. We've got them a tiller, and then from the funds that we've acquired through the grants, we were able to populate their tool shed with the tools that are necessary to carry out food production operations. And that's just a picture on the bottom left of some of the community members we worked with when we started planting the garden. Lincoln University is the next garden. That is the one that the garden was originally built under USDA and NEFA grant, and that is on Lincoln University campus. And through this grant, we've been able to keep that going and really expand the educational opportunities for the participants that have been involved with that. And there's other pictures below that. 2 or 3 that we haven't got. Thorpe Gordon Elementary School is one that we are currently planning to build, and also one in Centertown, which is a small town outside of Jefferson City to the west. Boys and Girls Club Garden is to the right of the middle. That's a garden strictly taken care of by the Boys and Girls Club throughout the summer. Bottom is just a picture of the classes that we have with those children, and then there's a picture of all the apples that we harvested on the table behind them. And within that garden also is the chicken coop that we built with solar panels on the roof to show them examples of renewable energy. And we also have beehives sitting on top of the chicken coop, which we were able to produce 8.5 pounds of honey this year. So we were able to have Dallas Moss come in, who's a community member that donates his time, and we did honey extraction and sent everybody home with some samples of native homegrown honey. Seems to be a big hit. It was a huge class. So to the right is the Pringer Center Garden. This year we used the old teaching greenhouse that we teach our classes in to kind of supplement that class. We just now finished building another garden that will be exclusively for their use. The right picture in the middle is the commercial kitchen that we use, and we use that to teach these kids food preservation techniques, and we also use it so they can, in this picture I believe this class was, they were making their own pizza out of the vegetables that we grew in the garden. Everything was from the garden except, of course, the dough and the cheese, because I haven't found a plant that grows cheese yet. And the bottom is a compost site where we compost all of the food waste from university. Dr. Wayne Johnson does, and all the building and grounds, we compost the leaves, and we use that to supplement the nutrients in the soil from the food production site. And it also helps people to kind of tie in the full cycle of soil and how you have to have a healthy foundation to be able to get healthy outputs from your plant. So this is what we're currently working on now. I've just partnered with Nicole Stacy with Thorpe Gordon Jefferson City Public School District. They are working on a grant from the Missouri Foundation of Health for setting up educational kind of gardens outside. So this is a little garden outdoor classroom that I constructed that we will start building as soon as it is approved by the Missouri Foundation of Health. They have enough money for materials, but they have no money allocated for labor. So I am working as part of this grant. We'll build this with hopefully some of the students and some of the employees of the public school district to get this set in place so we can use it as a place to teach this next coming summer and fall to be able to reach those additional students in the elementary schools. So come some of the educational seminars and workshops we do. We teach everything from botany, which is just the basics of plant growth, why a plant grows, how it grows, the basics of it, soil health, composting, vermiculture, the importance of worms and composting, IPM, integrated pest management, honey production, emergency preparedness, aquaculture, food preservation, teach people how to can, how to dehydrate their food, native edibles, native edible identification, plant nutrients, why it's important, plant pathology, the effects that climate has on plants, and renewable energy. So all these are pictures, like up at the left is the Pringer Center. I usually try to tie a classroom educational session in with a field trip. So after our aquaculture component class, we took them all to Clifty Creek Conservation Area, made traps to trap aquatic biology, and then we identified all the aquatic biology that we found. And some of these kids have never been in water outside of a pool or a bathtub, so it really opened up their eyes to a lot of things, and it sparked their interest in a lot of different things that's going on. Seeing the composting picture, teach people how to compost and recycle the nutrients that are in everyday things that we throw away. Food preservation, how to extend your harvest beyond the season that you can harvest from your plants. Honey production, there we have a little girl that's cutting the caps off of the honey hives before we put it in the spinner to extract the honey. Pest management, I forgot the gentleman's name. He is from MU, but he came down and taught the Boys and Girls Club about pest management, and then also classes that are in line with emergency preparedness and natural disaster, kind of how you mitigate the damage from those events. So these are summer camps that we've been involved with. We have a lot of them come to Lincoln. We have them go through the greenhouses, the community garden. We take them up to the old rock quarry, take them to different conservation areas, and we also take them out to Carver Farm, where you can see I'm in the pond there. And what we do is we have large groups of kids. We'll have all the kids get in the water, as you can see on the bottom left, and we'll seine these ponds. And then we'll use that as an educational opportunity to teach these kids about aquatic diversity, water quality, and the different parameters that affect all these little different ecosystems. Student research projects. Two of my students, Ashley and Elena Wanzing, they both work respectively, one with the Boys and Girls Club and one with the Pringer Center. And we give them different classes, and what they do is they work with and facilitate each of these different classes. And we give them pre-test and post-test to gauge what they learned in each of those classes, and then we provide them with the outdoor learning spot so they can implement what they've learned. And they really get a great joy, I think, out of planting all the way to harvesting. They get a great deal of satisfaction, you know, harvesting something that they had their hands in growing. And a lot of those little kids from the Boys and Girls Club especially like the chicken coop and the chickens, especially when you have the rooster over there talking to them the whole time they're in the garden. In the Pringer Center, those kids come over. We usually have these classes once a week for these two organizations throughout the summer, so it's pretty busy, but we try to introduce them to all aspects of food production and different parts and cycles in the environment. Emily, the new incoming freshman, she's working on emergency preparedness education and training. So she's currently doing surveys on people to see how prepared they would be or how they would be able to respond if a natural disaster or some acute traumatic event happened, and also a chronic event such as a drought, how that would impact food production, food prices, economic, etc. So we're in the nascent stages of this. So what we have set up for this spring is an emergency preparedness seminar set of classes, and this will be the second year that we are surveying this certain bunch of people to see if these classes help them build their individual resilience to storm damage scenarios. And to this date, it's showing strong correlation. You know, they're really coming along on their surveys. And then we're also using those surveys in a different aspect to judge whether people in an urban setting or a rural setting are more apt to be able to mitigate these changes to natural disasters. And the last student research project we have is Wyatt Hunziker, and he is working on gender ratio and cultured bluegill sunfish as a function of early life stage growth rate. And I will have to defer all questions to him at the statewide meeting in February. So he's working on that during the winter. We really don't have much things to do with plants, so I try to put my students in kind of different opportunities to give them cross-disciplinary exposure to different areas of the science. So the output and the impacts from what we have done so far, we've had 7 community gardens or food production sites set up. To date, we've had 5,372 pounds of produce harvested. We've had 73 educational workshops, seminars, about 1,200 people in those classes. 182 children have came through our summer camps last year, and I have 4 students that are doing internships, with our 4th student coming over in January 15th to start her master's degree work in sociology, to kind of put this all in sociological context to see if it really impacts the community and what the outcomes can be. And these are one way I kind of base on my classes is after every class I'll have people write down what they want to learn or what they've got out of this. They'll post this so you guys can read it when you want. But a lot of what I do, I don't plan too far ahead. I let the participants and the community members kind of dictate where we go as long as it's within the resiliency framework that we have set up to accomplish the outcomes that we need for this grant. And that is a basic overview of everything. I know it's a quick overview, I guess 25 minutes, but this time, if you guys have any questions, you're more than happy to ask.
Can you hear me? This is Pat Market.
Hey, Pat.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Great. Hi. Hey, just a quick question for you. I'm wondering if there's been, in all of the things that you've done, if there's much, if any, discussion of climate information, and if that's being sourced from someplace like the Missouri Climate Center or a nearby Missouri Climate Center Mesonet site, or if there's been any discussion of perhaps participating in COCORAS. And because depending upon the situation of the person making the request, it's possible to get the rain gauge at least for a minimum and sometimes no cost at all. Yeah, the only thing that the COCORAS people ask is that you check the rain gauge once a day and provide that information back to them. But I mean, that's, you know, that gets into issues of, you know, we're talking about resiliency and you know, people that have gardens at home and you know, if it's raining enough, then they don't have to water the garden kind of thing. So I'm just wondering if any kind of climate element has been introduced into the things that you've done.
Yes, there has. We've had specific classes, and a good thing of having these production sites, especially in the Bootheel, the very first year we did it, they had lots of rain down there, and it flooded it out, so it was a real tangible way to show the impacts of changing climate. But in reference to, I was actually going to talk to you guys about collaborating with you, hopefully to get some of, I'm not too informed on the different rain gauge kind of things, but I've heard about it. But I'd like to get those implemented in the different communities, and there's a big kind of a want to kind of, I guess, get into that with the people that have been participants in my classes.
Okay. I know Tony Lupo had intended to be on the call, and I don't see his name on the list, but either Tony or Pat Gannan, who's the state climatologist, I'm not sure which one. In fact, they may be co-chairs for COCORAS for the state of Missouri, so those two would be the ones to speak with.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
And are you doing anything with MoDirt?
I've been working with Sandra. We went down and we had a Bootheel Community Development. We had a board meeting about 3 weeks ago, and they are currently asking the community and kind of surveying the community to see how many people would like to be involved with that. So when I hear back from them, I'll be contacting Sandra, and we're trying to be efficient about it. So we're trying to get everybody, all the participants identified, and then we will get a class schedule or a class time set up. And we have a facility, the BCDC Corporation, they have a building down there that we've held classes at in the past that we will hold those classes at in the future. But we're just kind of in the nascent stages of that too, and we're just trying to get it all together before we take it to the next step.
I have a few questions here.
Okay.
The first one is from Erin Myers. She says that she hopes that you can talk a bit more about your use of the indexes and specifically how you have used them to work with the community.
So the indexes, in Cole County, I've had specific classes for all the participants on it just to kind of broaden their horizons on how diverse Missouri is when it comes in reference to resilience. So why I work in the Bootheel compared to Cole and Montauk counties, and we kind of go over, it's an interesting way to kind of engage people in that particular county to say, you know, your county is identified as, you know, being less or more resilient in this area. How can we work on this? You know, what can you do as an individual? What can we do as a community? So that it's a good jumping off point that really opens up people's mind, because there's a lot of, what I've found in the past, there's a lot of complacency with people. If everything is good for them, they necessarily don't think about the community as a whole. So it's a good way to open up discussion and kind of just open up people's eyes to everything. I think Brian Dabson's, the resilience measures that he has implemented really kind of dictates what I do in the different counties in reference to the different classes. And Aaron, on a different scale, I mean, if we want to talk and we can kind of work together on this, I'd like to get both of us involved and kind of get your expertise on this and maybe be able to give some of your information to the participants that I'm involved with.
Yeah, and she added that she'd like to email you to talk about further collaboration.
Okay.
And then Sandra has a question. She wants to know, what does your soil health class look like?
What does my soil health class look like? First and second grade. No, it's pretty beginning. I have the compost, Dr. Wayne Johnson come in. She talks about the different parameters of soil health, the different microorganisms, the importance of it, and kind of tie that in with plant nutrients. So it's just, on these classes, I'll set up the framework for it, but on emergency preparedness and other classes, I'll invite speakers in, so it's not always me talking at every classes. For instance, on emergency preparedness, I invited National Guard colonels that contributed to the New Orleans effort in 2005. They came in and talked about the impacts of flooding, what they saw, what they view as ways that they can mitigate things, what an individual can do, and what a community can do. So I really try to bring in a lot of different specialists pertaining to the different classes that we have. It just kind of opens up everything, and I don't know everything about it all, and sometimes they can, you know, introduce these subjects and talk about these subjects a lot better than I ever could. Well, thank you for everybody listening to the presentation. I hope you guys all have a nice day.